A farewell tour, not for Taylor, potentially for Travis Kelce, but Patrick Mahomes says, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. We'll hear from Mahomes on his longtime tight end coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Tre Harris, the Chargers rookie wide receiver, will join us shortly. He is off to a fantastic start by all reports coming out of Los Angeles, so he will join us to talk about that start to his NFL career, and we'll make him carry our pads. Our notepads, because we're reporting. Never mind. Michael F. Florio will be with us as well to talk about the fantasy outlook in the NFC North, where Sam Darnold no longer plays, but the guy on the other side of these passes does. Welcome inside with the Insiders. Judy Batista joining me. Mike Garofalo here on a Thursday, an OTA Thursday. We love OTAs. They continue to go on around the league, bringing us all kinds of news and insight. The folks who are going to be joining us to talk about them, by the way, Steve Weish, Omar Ruiz, along in just a matter of seconds, Mark Ross as well, and I mentioned Michael F. Florio and Tre Harris, so stay tuned for their insights later. But for now, we go to Patrick Mahomes and his insights, because the Chiefs are at OTAs trying to get back to that Super Bowl to win it this time after a disappointing loss to the Eagles. It all starts in the spring. Even Patrick Mahomes understands that. The question is, will this be the final football spring for Travis Kelce? Patrick Mahomes says, not so sure about that.
You know, I mean, if it's the last ride, you would never know. I mean, the way he's talking about football, the way he's talking about working and trying to be even better this year than he was last year. I mean, he's not. It doesn't seem like a guy that it's his last ride. Like he's tired of the job. I mean, he's in here, he's working, and I know his body feels good. I think it feels better than even last year before going into last season. Just because I think he's motivated to go out there and have an even better year than he had this last.
Yep, here's Steve Weish and Omar Ruiz. Natalie dressed, as is Judy, and I'm slumming it once again. But Mark Ross going to match me. Stay tuned for that. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. Steve, want to start with you. Travis Kelce, you did spend time with him recently. What is your thoughts on what Mahomes is saying and what we might see from Kelce this year?
Yeah, what's interesting, when I saw Travis was right after the conversation came up, and I believe he started it saying, you know, he lost 25 pounds, so he can be in better shape. I was like, 25 pounds? He's like, yeah, you know, that's BS. Not 25 pounds, because he'd be weighing about 220 if he did that. He plays around 245, 250. But remember, his receptions numbers were high. He had 97, but his yardage totals were low, and his postseason numbers, including targets, were low. So he really did seem dialed in my conversation with him about having a really good season. You know, he seems really committed to come out playing well, get this whole offense rolling well, because it wasn't just him whose numbers were down in some areas. Patrick Mahomes' numbers were down in total yards. So the Chiefs, their offense, their wide receivers, everything needs to get better to open him up. And again, he seems committed, at least going into 2025, to having one of his better seasons. We'll see if it happens, because a lot of other things have to work. But at least from what he can control, he does seem like he's on it, but just not 25 pounds less of it.
Yeah, Steve saying, Andy Reid saying that Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, all the guys that he's leaned on over the years. And no surprise that Travis Kelce has been working the way he has, according to Patrick Mahomes, setting the standard that they have for the Kansas City Chiefs this year, trying to get to their 6th Super Bowl in 7 seasons. They're starting out in Brazil. They're playing on Thanksgiving. They're playing on Christmas. So many different irregular schedules. Andy Reid saying these guys are instilling the tempo with which they practice. And Patrick Mahomes saying, yes, he's not quite 30 yet, but this is his 9th season. He's learning to get with these young players, trying to get to know them as people before he mentors them on the field, pushes them on the field. And that goes to the same for those veterans who are new, how they practice, because when they get into the season and they're playing on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday, as we've seen them over the years, sometimes Andy Reid pushes them physically in practice, sometimes he pulls back, but mentally sharp is what always is the focus, and they're learning that here in OTAs, and then we'll take that into training camp and into the rest of the season as well.
Well, guys, none of this matters if that offensive line does not get settled, and there are a lot of moving parts. There is a job competition at guard. But most importantly, what came out of the early OTAs was Andy Reid saying that Josh Simmons, the rookie slated to be the left tackle, might be a little bit further along than they had expected at this point in his recovery from the knee injury that he suffered in college. He has not done any teamwork yet. Andy said, we just got to get him in there against a defense. But there is some hope that maybe at the end of phase 3 of the offseason that they'll be able to get him in there at teamwork. That is the most important thing that can come out of this offseason for this offensive line to gel. It stymied them against the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year. It cost them a previous Super Bowl against the Bucs. It has hampered them. It has hampered the offense and what Andy and Patrick can do in it. That has to get settled or nothing else matters for the Chiefs.
Yeah. Jalen Moore also received a ton of money to come over from the San Francisco 49ers, $15 million per season, as Joe Tooney was the tackle the last time we saw the Chiefs on the field, not made to play that position, now in Chicago as a guard. So the Kansas City Chiefs looking to fortify that offensive line, as well as the tight end position with Travis Kelce. So to be clear, only one tight end, making it clear that this is likely his last season. That's Mercedes Lewis. That's later in the program. Stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the AFC West, the Chargers, year 2 under Jim Harbaugh, looking to take that next step forward. Joe Ortiz, the general manager, has been trying to fortify that roster, including at the receiver position. And we mentioned Tre Harris will be with us in just a couple of minutes. Weish, want to kick it back to you. Let's talk defense. Let's talk Derwin James in the secondary, the leader back there for the Chargers.
Yeah, Mike, the other day, Omar and I were both out there at their OTAs. We got to speak to defensive back coach Steve Clinkscales, and he was talking about Derwin James. We know about the versatility of Derwin James. We've seen him play strong safety, free safety, some even outside linebacker stuff. But what was interesting, what Clinkscales pointed out, is that doesn't just show Derwin James' versatility, but it forces all of the other defensive backs in that secondary to learn new positions, which is allowing Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, to do things different schematically. So there's, we could say, hey, guys have to learn positions as cross-training in case a player gets hurt. But in the Niner scheme, what this does, Omar, is it allows a different player, a safety, to learn a corner spot or a slot spot so they can scheme up a lot of different things in different situations. They think they're going to be even more creative this year in year 2 of the system, especially with Derwin James coming off a bounce-back year last year the way he did.
And they said they're not relearning that defense. They are picking it up from where they left off in that playoff loss to the Houston Texans, and they are going. They are going against every day in practice that receiving core that we were talking about. We saw that clip on social media, Justin Herbert to Brendan Rice, one of those players that was flashing when we were out there at practice. Steve. And in general, these receivers, there aren't many drop balls when you watch a practice. I think last year we would agree there were a lot of balls on the ground that when they were going on air, and this is a revamped receiver room. Obviously, Mike Williams is back in tow. They drafted Tre Harris in the second round. I was speaking with general manager Joe Ortiz about him, who not only they're high on his skill set, his impressive size on the field. He's 6'2", 205, but gets in and out of his breaks, receives the ball well with his hands, but he has a presence. Ortiz told me when he walks into a room, when they're meeting with him at the Combine, just a real confidence about his style. Then you have Ladd McConkey, of course, that's back. Quentin Johnston was out making plays, and it seems like they're all elevating each other. And speaking of that elevation, we've seen from one year to the next, that Chargers roster really made in the mold that Jim Harbaugh wants to have. They are big, they are physical, they are imposing, and it really stands out when you see them out at practice.
You really see what Ortiz and Harbaugh have done. This is a massive physical team now in terms of just stature. Even the quarterback room where Justin Herbert, everybody else in the room, is about the same size as him when you take into account free agent signing DJ Ungalele, who's about 6'5",
Trey Lance is out there, big dude.
Trey Lance. So they're big all the way across the board.
Yeah, don't need those offensive linemen to come first off the bus. You can send the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. It'd be just plenty fine.
That's the thing we were commenting, Mike. Bradley Bozeman, the starting center, is about 6'5", 340, looks small next to Mekhi Becton. That's just how big those guys are all across the board.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton getting $10 million per season to head out there to the Chargers, and hopefully, if you're the Chargers, he can continue on the success that he finally got with the Eagles this past season. Omar and Weish, don't go anywhere. Yeah, Air George Pickens, the newest addition to the Cowboys receiving room with a one-handed catch. See, like you got the slow motion from every team's social account. How about the no motion? That is a great look right there from the Cowboys social account of that one-handed catch by George Pickens. Brian Schottenheimer, the new coach down there in Dallas, new head coach, Happy with what he sees so far?
I think, number one, he's doing an incredible job picking up the system. I talked about his intentionality last week, I believe, just how hard he's working. But there was a play, and it really wasn't anything George did. But we're in the red zone, and we're in kind of a spread formation. We hit him for a touchdown. Joe did on a little a bender, like a little skinny post, down in the low red zone. And CD was on the other side. And when CD broke out and he looked back to see where the ball went and he saw George in the end zone, he kind of dragged his toes up. CD was like, yes. So I think his excitement for knowing that we've added some pieces which will add to the competition, it was cool to see a guy like CD be excited. And those two guys' relationship is awesome. I'm sure you guys have probably done stories on it, but they're spending a lot of time together. I think it's great for CD to have someone like George, not that George is a young player, but someone that GP really looks up to in CD. They obviously have trained some together, but that relationship's really cool. And I'm enjoying kind of just sitting back and watching it develop.
You know it's badly needed when a number one wide receiver is happy that another receiver got the ball. But that is the case with CD Lamb. Mark Ross joining us now for a front office perspective on matters here. We're talking wide receivers. I think you and I thought maybe we were going to be talking about Jalen Waddle, if you pick up what I'm putting down with the shirts. But Judy, going to you on the Cowboys wide receiver room with George Pickens added to it, like we talked about, a much-needed number two. I didn't call you number two, George. I'm just saying. You're number two to CD Lamb's number one.
Well, you can understand why CD Lamb is saying, hallelujah, finally, because we've been talking about this for a few years, that they needed a strong wide receiver. As you said, it's not really number two. It's more sort of like 1A and 1B right now, to take some of the defensive focus off CD Lamb and another target for Dak Prescott. And don't forget, for George Pickens, look, he wore out his welcome in Pittsburgh, quite obviously. But he has the potential to be a dynamic playmaker. We did see that in spurts last year. This is by far the best quarterbacking situation that George Pickens is going to be in. When he was in Pittsburgh, he had the Mitch Trubisky years. Last year, obviously, they had a quarterback shuffle there. He's had some tough. Kenny Pickett was his quarterback there. So he has not had elite level quarterbacking like he is going to have with Dak. And he also hasn't had a number one receiver next to him, the caliber of CD Lamb. So the Cowboys not only have the potential to finally give CD Lamb some help, but they finally have a chance to unlock everything that George Pickens can be. He's obviously tremendously talented physically. It didn't work out in Pittsburgh for a variety of reasons. But he certainly now has players around him that should give George Pickens the best chance to finally be the full George Pickens.
And I think, Judy, the biggest thing about the relationship with CeeDee Lamb is that mentor effect that he will have on the field and off the field. You talked about the flashes of brilliance, and I think when George Pickens sees how CeeDee Lamb prepares and how he goes about the game day, of how he's always consistent. And, CeeDee Lamb, you can count on him. So George Pickens needs to look at how CeeDee Lamb handles his business in practice and on game day to say, I need to have that consistency like CD does. But also, you talked about him wearing out his welcome. Well, CeeDee Lamb can have an effect on George Pickens also off the field in the locker room to say, okay, this is how we show up to meetings on time. This is how we prepare in the film room. This is how we do things the right way if you want to be an elite receiver and unlock all of your potential. So it's an effect that CeeDee Lamb can, the Cowboys hope, be positive on and off the field.
Yep, and you look at what the Cowboys have done this offseason, selectively aggressive. That was this offseason, right? They were selectively aggressive when it came to George Pickens. Mark, have they been selectively aggressive enough to compete with the Eagles and the Commanders in the NFC East?
Yeah, I still don't see that. Look, the Eagles probably the best team in the league with the most talent in the league. The Commanders, I think, got tremendously better with getting Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel in there, not even naming all the solid free agent signings. And for Dallas, you're really just talking about the George Pickens trade, that they got better. Tyler Booker drafting him in the first round. But I still think there's a ton of question marks with this Cowboys team. Number one, with Dak Prescott and his health. Two, his ability to win big games and win playoff games. Three, the running back situation. We're talking about the receivers, but look at that running back room. There are a lot of question marks there. And then I think when you go to the defensive side of the ball, I think there's a ton of question marks there as well. So Philly, definitely best team in the league. Commanders knocking on the door. Just too many question marks in Dallas.
Yep. We'll see, Mark. We'll see how it plays out. I know a lot of folks are underestimating Brian Schottenheimer, underestimate him at your peril. I know he wasn't a hot head coaching candidate, at least not in the last 15 years. He was years ago, but I think he's more prepared to be a head coach now, and we'll see how it goes down there in Dallas. By the way, Mark, happy anniversary to you. How many years now with you and your lovely bride now?
20. Oh, whoa.
Look at that.
Look at that. Thank you. Appreciate. Oh, man, that's some good-looking people right there.
Come on, score some points here.
20 years, man. I can't believe it. Man, you got it all here. This is perfect. You got Thank you. I
you don't
appreciate
miss a
that.
trick, man. Is your account set to private? Because we blow right through those firewalls here on the inside.
I should have put it on. Should have private.
We have a way of getting to the information. Hey, listen, happy anniversary to you.
Thank
20 years, at least 20 more. We're going for like 60 more, Mark. I think you guys are going to make it. You two lovebirds. So congratulations to you guys. Tre Harris looking to make it 20 years in the NFL. It's only been like 20 days so far, but he's going to talk to us about the way he's going to set himself up for longevity. Listen, just keep doing what you're doing, young man. Tre Harris, Chargers rookie wide receiver, next on The Insiders.
The Insiders is brought to you by Hidden Valley Ranch, only serious about flavor.
It was just about, I don't know, a year ago where we were saying, boy, the Chargers really have no real depth at wide receiver. It's changed in a hurry, thanks in part to this guy, Mississippi wide receiver Tre Harris, the 55th overall pick, joining the Los Angeles Chargers, and now joining the Insiders. Tre Harris with us right now. I got to tell you, as far as first impressions go, and we're seeing this from afar, Judy Batista and I are, a lot of glowing reports early. Seems like you've hit the ground running there. Do you feel like that's the case? I know you got a long way to go. I get it. But what's led to this early success with you in OTAs?
I definitely say just taking each day with what comes with it, to be honest with you. One thing that Coach Harbaugh has harped on, and one of the first things he told the entire rookie class was an acronym called WIN, and that's what's important now. And the way I took it is, just go out there, take each day with what comes with it, learn your place for the next day, learn what you got to do, what assignments come with it. And that's all I've been doing. And I feel like that's what's contributed to my success so far.
Specifically, the early reports out of OTAs are that you and Justin Herbert already have some good early chemistry going. What are your early impressions of him?
Man, he lives up to the hype that everybody's talking about. And, he's a true professional, and every throw he makes is right on the point. And you can't really complain about anything he does because he does everything the right way. And I'm super excited to be able to play with a quarterback like that.
You in college played for Lane Kiffin, who seems like an interesting, fun fella from time to time, and Jim Harbaugh now in the NFL. He's got some interesting personalities from the head coach. How do these two stack up, and what's your initial impressions of Jim Harbaugh as head coach of the Chargers?
Well, my initial impressions are it's nothing but good, to be honest with you. Everything that Coach Harbaugh preaches, he lives by. Everything he teaches us, he's very involved in everything that we do, and that's something that I'm really enjoying, to be honest with you. Kiffin and Coach Harbaugh, they're definitely two different personalities for sure. Kiffin, he can be a little bit more laid back, but, Coach Harbaugh, he's not afraid to, get up in your face and tell you how he feels, and he's also not afraid to, let you know how he feels about any situation. So that's one thing I really do appreciate coming from him.
Trey, Mike mentioned it a few moments ago that wide receiver has been an area of concern for this team, and it was perceived as the biggest need going into this offseason. Give us the scouting report on you. What is the team getting? What are fans going to see you bring to that offense?
Well, you're going to get a guy who's able to win versus man. That's one of the best things. I feel like that's one of my best attributes. You get a guy who's able to, go out there and make contested catches and, make those over-the-top catches as well. Just an explosive receiver, always making catches and plays down the field. So I feel like that's something you'll get from me in every game that I'm able to play in.
Trey, take me back because you're talking about your size-speed combination. We saw that in all the scouting reports leading up to the draft. A lot of times around the draft, the likes of us will say, well, this guy's going to be a second-round pick, and then he's not taken to like the third or the fourth round because we project like 60 guys to go in the second round. You actually beat a lot of the projections that I saw. I mean, take me through draft day and the fact that you get that call at 55 from the Chargers and what they told you about what you could do for them right away.
It was, going through that draft day, man, it was ecstatic, to be honest. I was so ecstatic, just being able to hear Mr. Ortiz call my name and, give me that phone call and hear from Mr. Spanos, that I'm becoming a Charger. It was something that I'm always remember. It's something that was amazing, to be honest with you. I couldn't even keep a smile from off my face, but I can't wait to, really make my mark in the league.
All right, Trey, you are a converted quarterback back in your high school days. You played with Malik Neighbors in high school. You played with Jackson Dart in college. Mike and I both live in the New York area. This is a big topic of conversation here. How is Malik Neighbors going to like playing with Jackson Dart?
One thing I can tell about those two is that they're actually very similar in their competitiveness. Both of them, they both going at whoever it is in front of them. That's something I've picked up from both of them that, that's one thing. They're fierce competitors, and they don't want anybody to be better than them. And I feel like that's going to just complement each other really, really well. And they're also extremely hard workers. Both of these guys, both of them, they go out there and they put in the work that's needed and they put in extra. And that's something I'm super excited to see. We do get to play them, so I can't wait for that opportunity as well.
Backing up, because Judy said you're a converted quarterback to wide receiver. A lot of times we'll see those guys throw some passes. In 5 college seasons, only 1 attempted pass. Were there more that were dialed up or not dialed up? I guess were in the game plan, not called. And could we see that in the NFL?
I don't know if we're going to see it in the NFL. I'm going to leave that to Coach Roman. But in college, we had some dialed up. But for the most part, I was just trying to go out there and ball. I wasn't too worried about getting other people touch. I was trying to get my own, to be honest with you, just trying to find a way to, expose the defense. So it wasn't too much to go into that conversation.
All right, now that you're about to embark on your rookie season, what's one thing you really want to do as a rookie? One thing you want to buy, one thing you want to see?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing I want to see for sure is I want to go to a Lakers game. Definitely being out here. I've never been to an NBA game, so that's something I definitely want to do. That or go to a UFC event. Those two are my top 2 things right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Never been to an NBA game. Well, we got to get you to one soon to get a chance to see Lakers or Clippers out there in the Los Angeles markets. One or the other. All right, so Chargers-Giants, Week 4, September 28th. So you get to reunite with both of those teammates, Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors, that we talked about. But, hey, rookie, don't get ahead of yourself, okay? Yeah. Friday, September 5th, Chargers-Chiefs. That game in Brazil. So looking forward to seeing that one. And looking forward to seeing what you do in your first NFL season. Tre Harris, good luck, man. Appreciate you joining the Insiders.
Thank y'all for having me. Really appreciate it.
Going to be seeing plenty of him catching passes from Justin Herbert. Going to see plenty of Matthew Stafford throwing the football for the Rams, the other LA team, after he returned this offseason after flirting with some other teams. Sean McVay happy to have Stafford back, and we are happy to have our guys Omar Ruiz and Steve Weiss talking Rams after this.
Welcome back to the Insiders. The Los Angeles Rams made one of the most interesting moves of the offseason, signing Davante Adams to pair with Puka Nacua, giving Matthew Stafford a very nice set of weapons. Stafford talked about Adams during OTAs yesterday.
I was texting with him, late last week a little bit and just saying, hey, man, you're a great player because of your skill set, and I'm going to continue to, work and watch, and whether that's watching live after I throw and then go back and rewatch and make sure what I was seeing and feeling at that moment was real. And then we just talk about it too, right? After every single set, it feels like we're over there talking about, hey, this is kind of how I'm thinking I'm going to come out of this or feel that. And it's just constant dialogue. And honestly, those are the best relationships I've had with receivers, and the most success that I've had is guys that, want to talk to you on how, what they felt, what they were doing. And I can also say, hey, this is what it looked like from my angle, and go from there. But he's definitely, he has that feel, he has that understanding, and that's a huge positive.
All of that sounds good. Omar and Steve, thanks for joining me. Omar, I want to start with you because you were at that practice. We are all going to be paying an awful lot of attention to the Stafford-Adams relationship and dynamic. How was it looking to you early?
Well, it looked great. Davante Adams, even in his, double-digit season now in the NFL, just still looks as impressive as ever. That 17, getting up in the air, making those impressive catches. But when you think about Matthew Stafford's first year with Cooper Kupp, it was historically great. The Triple Crown, the Super Bowl MVP. And then his first year with Puka Nacua, historically great. All-time receiving record as a rookie, all-time receiving yards record as a rookie, and then has the playoff performance, the rookie record against the Lions. So I'm thinking, okay, what does he have in store? How will he, in his first season with Davante Adams, make a mark? And I asked Sean McVay, what's been the most impressive thing to him in how he gets this chemistry with his receivers about Matthew Stafford? He said it's his ability to connect, his ability to communicate like most quarterbacks have, but it's also his ability to listen with intention. And that really endears him to his teammates, that he is there to be a collaborator with those receivers, that not only does Matthew Stafford have the confidence and obviously the experience, the skins on the wall to say, hey, this is how I like to see it, but all one. And then Matthew Stafford also told me that it is motivating for him to want to work with a guy like Davante Adams and have him have great success this season, because that'll mean it'll be team success. And then lastly, I asked offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur about it, and he said when they get into the games, Matthew Stafford still has that old school mentality where it's not so much about the play, it's not so much about the defense. He'll still go to his guy where the matchup is. And obviously with Puka Nacua across the way from Davante Adams, Matthew Stafford is going to like Davante Adams' matchup over those DBs a lot this season.
Well, what's interesting, we've seen Puka Nacua in the 17 highlights. Davante Adams is going to be wearing 17. Puka's going to be wearing 12. And Davante's going to be receiver 1B. We can talk all the Davante Adams as we want. He's one of my favorite players. The guy's had 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. But Puka Nacua is still the guy for the Los Angeles Rams. I am so interested to see how they work off of one another from game to game. We know Puka's the great run after the catch guy, incredibly powerful. Davante Adams is a shake and get open guy and score touchdowns guy. So from game to game, how they feed off of each other, this is going to be a tough out for teams. And let's not forget, their first-round draft pick was a tight end. Tight end has not been a huge component of the Rams' offense. It could be this year because the attention to those two guys going out wide.
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson in there and Tyler Higbee coming back as well.
Right.
Tight ends could play a much larger role.
All right, up the road in San Francisco, they were also on the field for OTAs after what was obviously a very disappointing 2024 season. Kyle Shanahan, the coach, talked to reporters about why there is heightened energy at OTAs, and he said it basically went back to the final team meeting at the end of the 2024 season, and he said, last year, the guys were not ready to come back to OTAs, and he understood that. Not so understanding this year. He wanted them back at OTAs. Steve, I guess the big question that's going to hang over this team is how do they bounce back from what was such an atypical season for them?
Yeah, and I think what Kyle was saying is they were burnt out, right, from going to the Super Bowl for the past couple of years and having just a short turnaround time. Now they've had a significant turnaround time. Everybody should be re-energized. Look, organizationally, they got the big contracts done. George Kittle, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy. So they got those guys in camp. So now the bounce back, because they've had some roster turnover, to me is going to be intriguing because he announced today that Ricky Pearsall, who could be their lead wide receiver, that's the second-year player, he's going to be out until training camp now with a hamstring. And, we know that they got rid of Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk is out with an ACL. So it's up to Juwan Jennings to really come out and to show some stuff for Brock Purdy and that wide receiver group. They've still got some injuries to come off of in the secondary. Mustafa, he's coming off of a knee injury. Jair, forgetting his Brown, ankle surgery. He's going to be out to training camp. So they've got some injuries to young players they've got to get through. But again, getting some of those those veteran players back and having more lead time coming in, they are a little bit rejuvenated.
It was interesting that Kyle said that, though, today. For as much as they denied the Super Bowl hangover last year, it was an admission, essentially, that they did have that. And obviously, that Super Bowl run was the culmination of 3 straight conference championship games. So they're playing deep into the season. But I don't think we can underscore enough what a big loss Christian McCaffrey was. The ultimate chess piece in that Kyle Shanahan offense, obviously out most of the season. Trent Williams wasn't there. He's been around here during the offseason program. But today, Kyle Shanahan saying that Christian McCaffrey is as healthy as he has ever been. They might have to dial him back a little bit to take care of him, protect him from himself. But getting Christian McCaffrey back, more than anything else, could be the impact for their 2025 season going forward for the 49ers.
Yep.
A sight for sore eyes, not just for San Francisco fans, for the entire league. Guys, thank you very much. And when we return, our fantasy guru, Michael F. Florio, is going to join us to give us fantasy advice about the NFC North. All of those great teams that are in the NFC North, 3 of those teams went to the playoffs last year. We're going to talk about them.
Throughout the offseason with 24/7 football news and coverage on NFL Network. And with NFL Plus Premium, relive your favorite moments from the 2024 season with game replays and access to NFL player stats with NFL Pro. Subscribe today at plus.nfl.com. Terms and conditions apply. Subscribe to NFL Plus and you'll probably get even more of Michael F. Florio, who used to have some awesome graphics that we used for like a day and then they disappeared. I haven't seen them since. We're going to have to bring those back. Today, we are giving the fantasy outlook for the NFC North. We're starting with the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson, that should help the fantasy outlook for the Bears, right?
Yeah, I think the Bears getting Ben Johnson was the biggest move of the offseason, especially for fantasy. He runs a run-heavy system. Every year in Detroit, they were top 3 in rushing touchdowns. He throws a lot of passes to the running backs, which is why I think DeAndre Swift is very underrated. He goes as an RB3, but brings top 15, maybe even higher upside. Caleb Williams is also the biggest winner of this offseason because he gets Johnson, he gets a revamped O-line, and he is surrounded by first-round picks, something Trubisky and Fields never had with the Bears. Him finishing somewhere in the QB 6 to 10 range for fantasy is very possible. And then I want all the pass catchers here as well. Loveland, Moore, Odunze, all of them. And then from the Bears to their biggest rival, the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur's offense have never ranked higher than 15th in pass attempts during his tenure with the Packers. It's why I don't love Jordan Love for fantasy. I think he's more of a QB2 with capped upside. Josh Jacobs, though, is going to eat here because he last year scored a career-high 16 touchdowns, second most touches and yards in his career. Very safe second-round pick. And even though this offense scores points, they don't throw a ton, and they have an abundance of wide receivers, so we don't know on a week-to-week basis who is going to be the guy there. So I don't like any of their wide receivers as anything more than a wide receiver 4 or a flex option for fantasy. And Tucker Kraft, more of a low-end tight end 1 in a very crowded system.
Okay, all right, noted. Now the Vikings. Look, you got a great offensive system. You got a team in a dome. You've got a tremendous skill position players there. You got to change your quarterback. So it's a bit of a leap of faith. How do we handle this whole thing with the Vikings?
Well, you mentioned KOC. I think he is such an underrated play caller. His offenses have finished top 6 in passing yards and touchdowns every year he's been with the Vikings. It doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, the Passionaut, Nick Mullins, this offense continues to produce, which is why I think J.J. McCarthy is a sleeper in fantasy because no one expected Sam Darnold to finish as the 9th best fantasy QB last year. And J.J. McCarthy, he might even just be a waiver wire name when drafts start. And look, it doesn't matter who is throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson. He has topped 1,400 yards every healthy season he has had. It's why he is the consensus number 2 wide receiver off the board. Addison is a quality wide receiver, but my favorite pass catcher there outside of Jefferson is Hawkinson. And then to the Detroit Lions. This might sound crazy, but they bring the most questions of any offense in this division because they lost Ben Johnson to the Bears. Their pass game coordinator went to the Jets. Now they have Brian Morton, who spent the last 2 years with the Broncos, but has only been an OC once. And you still have to pay full price for all of your Lions, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is a first-round pick. I don't mind that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, same. I don't mind it, but I'd rather have Puka Nacua or Malik Neighbors over him, and they tend to go later. Jamison Williams is a wide receiver, too. Laporta is a high-end tight end. So you are paying full price for your Lions despite the change in play caller, which gives me a little bit of pause.
Changes in coaches, changes at the quarterback position. The NFC North is a fascinating division to watch when it comes to fantasy purposes. That's why Michael F. Florio's got you on lock right now and throughout the entire offseason leading up to the start of the regular season. Fired up to hear more from Florio here on The Insiders. Fired up to finally hear from Mark Andrews after this disappointing drop. You know how much this gutted him. He didn't talk to the media. Andrews finally spoke on Thursday. We'll have that for you on The Insiders next.
A dad's work is never done. It's why the Home Depot has Father's Day gifts for every dad. From top.
OTAs continuing with Derrick Henry and the Ravens down there in Owings Mills at the Castle. A disappointing end to the season for the Ravens in Buffalo this past year. Mark Andrews had that key drop. We know how integral he's been to the Ravens. He continues to be. There's a question whether or not he'd be back. He is back, and he spoke for the first time since that drop in the playoffs.
It's tough, it's as somebody, this is my life. I put a lot of work into this, and everything I do is kind of focused on that. Everything I think about is focused on that, and so it wasn't the way that I'd planned it, and but that's all part of the story. I've been using it, and I've had an incredible offseason. And I'm excited to show what I can continue to do and continue to prove myself and step up in big moments. And that's the thing about sports is doesn't always fall your way, doesn't always go your way, but it's how you bounce back.
Mark Andrews and actually Isaiah Likely, what the Ravens are going to do, they've got to extend one of them. That's one of the offseason priorities in the AFC. Here are a bunch of other ones. Our guy Kevin Patra has a story on this on NFL.com. But yeah, you look to see what the Bills are going to do with James Cook right there. Colts got to find themselves a quarterback. Chip Kelly, yeah, they got to establish it. Going to be fascinating to see his return to the NFL. And yeah, we talked about the Chiefs and their need to fix things on the offensive line. Judy Batista back with me and Steve Weish as well for the priorities in the AFC North. Let's start with those Ravens that we just talked about with Mark Andrews, Steve.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball, and to me, it's getting rookie safety Malachi Starks, who signed his deal today, getting him up to speed right away. Because remember, our Darius Washington, right after the draft, who was their starting strong safety last year, he hurt his Achilles tendon. So they're going to have to get Malachi Starks in and ready to rock and roll. And the Ravens asked their defensive backs to do an awful lot, especially with the way they move Kyle Hamilton around. But let's also go to getting pressure on the quarterback. We know they've got some good pass rushers, Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy. They just drafted Mike Green out of Marshall. But I've got a player they could add if we're talking about priorities. And he said today he wants to keep playing. 36-year-old Von Miller would be an excellent closer for the Ravens. And their outside linebacker coach and pass rush specialist, Chuck Smith, he has been the lead coach at Miller's Pass Rushing Summit, the offseason summit he does for all the pass rushers around the NFL for about the past 6 or 7 years. I think Chuck Smith and Von Miller finishing up their careers together, at least Miller's career together, Baltimore would be a nice add.
Ravens haven't been shy about bringing in veterans at key positions late in their career. That would make sense. That would fit with that profile. Malachi Starks, by the way, his deal done, $16.5 million plus on that deal, so congrats to him for inking his rookie deal. Judy, let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I'm sure there's a long list of things that the Steelers still need to do. Take anything on that whole list, Judy, for the Steelers and their priority.
Yeah, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit. It's the most obvious thing. They've got to straighten out the quarterback situation. It is May 29th, and the presumed starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers is not on the roster yet. It's that guy, Aaron Rodgers. Now, still, all signs point to him becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm told he continues to ask all the right questions about practice schedules, all those kinds of things. The only thing that hasn't happened is him saying, I am on my way to Pittsburgh to join the team. So they are waiting for that. Obviously, if that falls through, they have to pivot and decide, do they try to make a trade for Kirk Cousins or do they go forward with Mason Rudolph and rookie Will Howard? And bigger picture, even if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback this season, which is certainly what they hope for, they have to try to get a read on Will Howard, whether he could be the quarterback of the future, because otherwise they don't have a quarterback of the future either, and they're going forward with a 41-year-old quarterback. They are in a world of hurt with the quarterback situation until they get this figured out in Pittsburgh.
Well, Judy, speaking of quarterbacks, let's go to Cleveland. And we know that they're trying to figure out if it's going to be Joe Flacco, it's going to be Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. But I'm not going with the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to the position group that they've got to throw the ball to. We know Jerry Jeudy, he just had a breakout year last year, catching balls from Jameis Winston. He looked like one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL last year with some uncertainty at that position. But after we get to Jeudy, what is there? There's Cedric Tillman. He had 29 catches last year from the wide receiver spot. Now, he missed some games with a concussion, but they don't really have a ton of other depth right there. They've got Jamari Thrash right now. They're hoping he can emerge. But other than Judy and David Njoku, the tight end, those quarterbacks, whoever starts, they're going to be searching for guys to get the ball to.
Judy, the Bengals, 2 big check marks on their list when they got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase's deals done, but still more work to do for them. What's the priority?
They got to figure out a way to not have such slow starts. In the Zach Taylor head coaching era, they are 4-13-1 in the first 3 weeks of the season. They keep digging themselves holes that even as great as that offense is, as great as Joe Burrow is, they can't keep digging themselves out of these holes. One of the things to do is not have any distractions off the field. They got Jamar Chase done. They got T. Higgins done. They need to get Trey Hendrickson done. They need to get Jamar Stewart into camp. His rookie deal is not done. They need to clear the decks so that they can focus on winning games right out of the gate. By the way, Jamar Chase said this week he wants to play in the preseason, and Zach Taylor appears to be open to finally playing his starters in preseason games.
Yeah, if you pay that guy that much money and he's a star player for you and he says that, yeah, you probably should listen to him. Judy Weiss, thank you. You're back with us for the final block of the show here in just a couple of seconds. The wait is over, by the way, and the countdown to kickoff has begun. Single game tickets for the 25 NFL season are on sale now. Visit NFL.com/tickets to purchase tickets today. Tickets are available through the NFL Ticket Network, including Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, and Sports Illustrated tickets. I said tickets again. Coming up, Mercedes Lewis. He just, like, Energizer Bunny doesn't even seem to summarize it. This guy keeps going. One more season at least for Mercedes.
My name is Darius Mosley, linebacker for the New York Giants. I am of Samoan and Filipino descent. Everywhere that I go, I'm always representing more than just myself. I carry that last name with pride. So my mom was always in the kitchen. There's me, and then I have 5 brothers, so a total of 6 boys. And I don't know if you ever saw a small Samoan. We're all big. We all got appetites, and so we was eating enough for 2 normal people. And so my mom would always cook up, just the right amount. As far as food, we eat rice with everything, with all our protein and all the veg. But another big protein back home in Hawaii is Spam. And so I have my girlfriend cook up a bunch of Spam musubis for me. That's a staple dish in Hawaii that we have Spam on a bed of rice, wrapped in nori or seaweed. And that's like our handheld snack everywhere that we go. Where I come from, it is very hard for us to make it out into the mainland, and especially in professional sports. Here I am now playing all the way in New York. Who would have known, little Darius would be all the way out here. I'm just grateful and blessed to be in this opportunity to be out here playing the sport that I love.
Great stuff, Darius. Listen, in 2006, the Jaguars drafted Mercedes Lewis in the first round, Maurice Jones-Drew in the second round. Lewis, 41, told our friend Kay Adams on Up and Adams he wants to play one more season. Maurice Jones-Drew, our guy, had a great career. He's been retired for 11 years. We're closer to Deuce Jones-Drew's, his son's NFL career than we are to Maurice's. Judy.
But that means we get Maurice Jones-Drew, and that's what I am happy about. Congratulations to Mercedes Lewis, though.
Mercedes, high in mileage.
Good luck, Mercedes. Back tomorrow, Insiders.